Authors just like you are succeeding right now, today, because they're capturing the moment and taking their time to do the things that they can do. And you can too. Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I am a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 40 books and counting. Over the course of the last 59 years of my life, starting out literally day one in media and having spent the last 40 years running a marketing company, I can tell you exactly what it takes to be both visible as well as valuable, make the mark that you know you want to and need to make in this world, and how to do it with all the integrity, all of the everything that is you in the world. But here's the thing, okay? We cannot fall into the comparison trap. We have to allow ourselves to be ourselves. And unfortunately, it's really super duper easy to fall into comparison mode. I do it all the time. Okay. So don't feel at all judged by this. In fact, if anything, I'm just sharing with you from my heart and, kind of maybe feeling with you. Okay. And I totally get it. I understand how it can feel to see somebody else doing something and feel like what they're doing is succeeding. There's a couple of things that I know that are totally true. And that's number one is that at every level, everybody actually has imposter syndrome. It's really true. It was very interesting for me when Michelle Obama's book came out, whatever that was, a couple of years ago now. Might have even been 4 years ago now. It's hard to remember. When her book came out, she said in an interview that she wondered if anybody would buy her book. Huge, huge reach. You knew it was going to sell millions of copies of the book just because of who she is and all the people that are massive fans of hers. But she had that question in her own mind. And I've heard Oprah say very, very similar things. We're talking about people who are at the extreme top of their game. The only person I can think of that has never said that specifically, although I've heard him say things similarly, would be Tony Robbins. And Tony talks about state. He talks about how we all have those feelings, but we learn how to capture them, pull them down, and not let them run. Instead, we run our lives the way that we want and need and know that we should. You see, an author whose book is selling at whatever level, and I'm not talking about the people who, like I was watching the Gutfeld show. It's pretty much the only news show that I can stand, and only just because they're really basically making fun of the news. No, I take that back. I like Jimmy Fallon's show again, totally, because it's all about comedy and humor. I could really care less at all these days about any of the political stuff of it, but they make me laugh. Okay. The thing about it is that yes, if a show that has hundreds of millions of people watching it, and you could use the Steve Harvey show, Kelly Clarkson show, any of those shows. I mean, it doesn't matter political party, political affiliation, none of those things make the difference. Okay. What really truly matters is approach. Is that the word I'm looking for? Is really how it's done. Because I was talking to a really good friend of mine who has been in book space about as long as I have. And we were both comparing notes for people that we have been authors of ours, that we've worked with, that we know have been on Good Morning America. And I'm not talking about, like a commercial on it or something, but like where they did a 3 to 5 to 10 minute segment on Good Morning America talking about a specific situation that is exactly what their expertise is and what they've written the book about. And the book's on the table and they're talking about it and all those kind of things. Now, I can tell you from experience that this doesn't happen, but the only way you could up those ratings would be if, the specific host said specifically, I would like every single one of you to go right now to the link at the bottom of the screen, or, click on this QR code here. We're going to wait for a second because we want everybody to go get this book. They do say, hey, you all should go get this book. Okay, but having an actual physical link, better yet, even if you're talking television, a QR code that a person could snap with their phone and go to it right immediately, would massively upgrade the the number of sales that you would get in that. Okay, they don't do that, and I don't expect that the major networks are going to ever start doing that. But when you have a book on a massively exposed, millions of lists, millions of people watching that episode kind of show, the truth of the matter is that you're probably going to, you're probably going to find yourself selling somewhere between 1,000 to maybe 4,000 copies of the book. Now, don't let me in any way feel like I'm poo-pooing that, oh, well, you're only going to sell 4,000 copies of your book. Most of us are going, well, hey, that would be amazing, because I know that statistically the average book sells 40 copies ever in its lifetime. We can show you how you could do that this month. We could show you how you could do that this week. Absolutely, we can totally do those kind of things. And we could show you how you could sell 4,000, or if you wanted to make a run at the New York Times bestseller list, which is an editorial, we can't guarantee it, but we can do the sales. You got to sell 10,000 print copies of the book. So, we're not talking about you go on, say the Steve Harvey show, and, and Steve says, hey, you got to get this book. Oh man, everybody just thinks that they should just call me now. You go on that show, they click on even if they showed the link, they're going to click on that link. We know that about a third of the people are going to get it in print form, a third are going to get it in ebook form, and a third are going to get it in audiobook form. Okay. Only print copies are going to be what Amazon is going to count. Okay. So if you sold 4,000 copies of your book, that means, whatever that would be, 1,300-ish of them would be print books. And, New York Times wants you to have a minimum of 7,500. Really, most of the times, I'm just going to flat out quote you need about 10,000 in a week. So you could conceivably do that, but probably not going to happen without a campaign behind it. And people get it and they make it onto the New York Times list, which is the one everybody talks about wanting to be on, but is totally an editorial. You see somebody and they say, hey, my New York Times bestseller book. That probably means that, they have a great connection and Walmart bought 25 to 50,000 copies of the book. Doesn't necessarily mean they made any money of it. In fact, in many of those cases, when you're talking about big authors, people who are nationally known, like if you're talking about a Michelle Obama or somebody like that, they got a big, sometimes very big advance. I'm talking in the millions of an advance. And when that 10,000 copies of the book sells in a week, they'll make either nothing. I mean, technically they make something, but it goes against that advance that they got because that's a loan. That's not like free money that you just get it and then plus you get it. They take and let's be real, when you're talking about traditional publishing, like what Michelle's book went out in and such, you're talking sometimes less than $1, sometimes as little as 10 to 25 cents per book that you're actually making off of it. On the high end, and this is if you're self-publishing it, you're making, $2 to $4 typically. You might go up to $5. You could make it up to 10 if you are, directly selling the books yourself. But, usually when you're doing mass distribution like that, you're making, cents per each book, which takes you a really long time, by the way, to, make back that $1 million advance they gave you. But we look at that and we compare it and we have this massive, feeling against ourselves because somebody else did something, we look at them and we judge ourselves by them. We judge our own journey by the journey that somebody else is running. We don't see all of their stuff. We don't know all that they've been through. I have a really good friend of mine that, on the one end, the company that she's built over the course of the last 10, 12, 11, 15, whatever years that I've known her now, um, you know, it does really, really big numbers retail. Okay. I also know that she has a staff of about 12, which means that, she isn't just taking all that massive amount of money and putting in her account. I also know that she does a lot of travel and feels guilty all the time because every time she's on the road, it means she's not there in the morning to kiss her kids when they're going off to school. It means that she's missed a few of their performances, though she tries to be home for all of them. It means that during the summer, and we even had a specific conversation about this. My kids are all grown and, I'm actually in grandkid space now. Got another one that's due in 2 days. Um, Assuming that the baby waits for the C-section, which babies, how they are. They have minds of their own. But, anyway, it's just one of those kind of things that, when you compare what you see to what they're feeling. And I know because I know some of these people and I know that they're feeling all kinds of things. I know a particular lady who has been on the Oprah show a couple of times and, those kind of things. But I also know that there are a lot of other struggles she's had in her personal life. And I know there's a lot of feelings that she has about the time away from home that she had when her child was growing up. And those are times you can't get back. And so, maybe you invested your time in being at soccer games or cheerleading practice or band practice, listening to the kids play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star on the violin. Those of you who have never had children that took violin in school, especially if you're talking like, elementary school or junior high, special kind of torture that is totally worth it. But you invested your time in those kind of things instead of. And so you are where you are, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. And yeah, I'm totally preaching to myself here right now. Okay. I'm just saying what I'm saying to myself into the camera and letting you listen. But what you want to see is the clues that the things that they've succeeded at leave. And also the regrets that they have that you can avoid. Because yes, you could be like, there's the old song that talks about, we all want to be big rock stars. Okay. If you're going to be a really powerfully successful 80s and 90s, means you got to go back in time, rock star, that also meant you were touring 200 to, as much as even 300 days out of the year. Okay. That meant you were on the road. Okay. And there's a lot of those rock star lifestyle kind of things. But a lot of the drugs also come in from the pain and the loneliness and there's a lot of ick and yuck if you really know those people that they've dealt with in their lives. All we see is them on the stage and the glamour and all of those kind of things. It's like the thing I heard one time, about the little kid that said what he wanted to be when he grew up was a return missionary. You don't want to go to deepest, darkest Africa or, some other mosquito infested place, get some kind of horrible disease and come back and, live to be able to tell about it. You want to just skip the whole experience and come back and just be able to tell about it. Right? We all want that. We all want to be at the end of the journey. What we need to do is embrace where we are and then do what we can do today. You can get visibility. You can get it right now today. If you DM the word amplify If you put in Amplify review or AMP, any of those kind of things, if you drop those words in there, I will gladly hop on a free phone call with you, Zoom, and we will talk about what's happening with your book, what can be done, and how you can get visible right now. We could literally, if you and I talked today, my schedule's pretty full today, so it might end up being tomorrow or even Thursday. But as soon as you're ready, we will find a way. I mean, I've taken phone calls at 11, 12 o'clock my time. If somebody's really, truly serious, committed, and ready to go, and they just happen to live in, another country or something like that, or, that's the only time they're available. If you're ready, I will be there. And we do have the processes to get you visible and valuable. You're going to need the exposure first, and everything else is going to come from that. Because in the end, I want you to look at them and I want you to see the similarities, not the differences. I want you to see how similar to them you are and the things that they've done that you can emulate versus looking at and being blinded by their success. They look like you, they act like you, they talk like you, they do the things that you do. If they do those kind of things, what they've done that works, you can do it too. I believe in you. We're going to be back again together tomorrow where we're going to talk about removing objections. The objections not only from the people that we're talking to, but from your own life as well. Until we're together again next time, I hope you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, and you have a great week.